Hey y'all, I am back and today I have more haunted Ouija board stories that I'm very excited to share with you guys. But before we get into that, I wanted to take the first couple of minutes of this video to ramble about the new Saw movie. If you're not interested, I'm not going to do any spoilers. There's not going to be any spoilers in this video. But if you're not interested in hearing my thoughts about the new Saw movie, I will put a time somewhere over here. You can skip and you can go to the Ouija board stories. But I have to talk about the new Saw. I have to. If you didn't know, a new Saw movie came out a couple of days ago. I don't think it's been out for very long, but we saw it last night. And let me tell you, I am obsessed. Actually, maybe obsessed is the wrong word to use because I definitely liked the other Saw movies better than this one. This was probably like my least favorite out of all of them, but it was still a really good movie. I highly recommend going to see it. I feel like it's a nice addition to the Saw franchise. Like, they didn't completely ruin the Saw movies. I promise, they didn't completely ruin them. But my personal thoughts, okay, maybe there will be a little bit of spoilers. I'm not gonna share like who the killer was or anything like that, but I'm gonna talk about the movie in general and the things that I liked and didn't like about it. The first thing, my biggest pet peeve with the entire movie is that they did not use the Jigsaw voice when they were playing the tapes. And if you've ever seen a Saw movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen a Saw movie and you're just watching this part to watch me ramble, then I'm sorry, you're gonna have no idea what I'm saying. They used a different voice, and the voice that they used was so bad. It was so bad. It was like, I want to play a game. And it was horrible. It was horrible. That was a really bad impersonation of it, but you understand what I'm saying. First, that was my biggest pet peeve of the entire movie. I don't know why they didn't use the Jigsaw voice. Maybe they couldn't get the actor who played Jigsaw to actually do the voice. Or maybe he passed away. Did he pass away? If he passed away, I'm gonna feel really bad. Because I don't think he did. I really don't think he passed away. But I feel like they could have gotten something at least a little bit closer to the Jigsaw voice, and it drives me bonkers. Every time they played a tape, I was like, don't do it, don't play it. Another thing that I can't tell if I liked or didn't like was that there was more of a... Okay, when I say this, I understand all of the Saw movies have a plot line to them, and they all kind of connect. And they do have a story that's told throughout all of the movies. But in each movie, I feel like there's less of a story and there's more torture. And by saying that, I mean they don't spend as much time talking with the characters and talking with the different people who are involved in the movie, and a lot of it is the people getting tortured and the people playing the game. But in this new movie, there is a lot of storyline, and I can't tell if I liked it or hated it because I'm really into the gory torture stuff. I know that sounds really weird. That sounds really weird, but I'm into it. I really like the gore. I'm really into it. And so there were less traps in this movie, and there were like not as good of traps in the movie, to be honest. The traps were like decent, like they're still scary and they're terrifying, and it's like if you got caught in that situation you would have no idea what you have to do, but they weren't as good of traps as the other movies. And it's probably because it was a Chris Rock thing. I think Chris Rock, I know he bought the franchise, but I don't know if he was like the director or if he was like the creative person for the entire movie. I doubt it. I'm sure he had help, but I don't know if he came up with everything. But he was also like the main character in the movie, which I really liked, except some of his acting was a little bit sketchy. Some of it was a little bad, but it's because he's a comedian, so I'm gonna cut him some slack there. But I don't know, I thought it was a good movie. I just wish there were more traps involved, and I wish that someone actually replied to my tweet, and they said that the original Saw movies had better motivation for the people who were put in the traps, and I agree with that. I feel like the reason behind, like the stories behind all of the other people in the other Saw movies, I feel like they had like a true reason to be in the trap. Not to say that the people in the new movie don't have a reason, because they do have a pretty good reason, but I just feel like the motivations and the backstories behind the other people were much better and more well like thought out. Did that make sense? I liked the new movie. I don't think it compares to the other Saw movies. I think it's still worth watching, and I think it's a good addition to the Saw franchise, and I think if they continue the movies, they'll be pretty good. I'm still on the team that they should have just left it where it was at. Like, the Saw movies were amazing, and they should have just let it go. But I'm also here for them making new ones because it is my favorite movie franchise, and so if they're gonna make more movies, I'm down for it. So I can't tell what side I'm on. I'm really stuck in the middle, to be honest with you, but I thought it was good. How many times can I say it was a good movie without while also bashing it? Okay, I've been talking about that for like 7 minutes, so we're gonna stop now. Hi y'all. Okay, now we're gonna get into the Ouija board stories because I have more from that book that I've been reading, and I'm very excited to read more of them to you. So I'm gonna scoot you on back and we're gonna get started. I promise I'm not gonna talk anymore. I've said enough. So this first story says, 4 in a room. Two friends found a Ouija board at a bookstore in downtown Orlando and decided to buy it and give it a try. The two girls, Marta and Jenny, took the board home to Marta's house and managed to contact a spirit. They asked the spirit many questions about his past, but then decided to change topic and asked him how many people were in the room. The spirit replied that there were 4. This was strange because only the 2 girls and the spirit seemed to be present, so who was the unknown 4th person? Both girls figured it was just the other one trying to mess around. They took their hands off the planchette, and just as they did, it started to move on its own, spelling close. They took that to mean that they should close the board, so they did. But first, they decided to say 5 prayers, asking God for his blessing of the house. A few days later, Marta decided to tell her mom what happened with the Ouija board. To her surprise, her mom was really upset and asked Marta to never use the board again. Apparently, their family had a bad history with spirit boards. Marta's mother told her the story. Marta's grandmother had used the spirit board when she was in her 20s. She really enjoyed using it and would constantly consult the spirits for advice, asking questions and trying to get information about the world beyond. She loved it so much she became lost in the spirit board. She started to see things she couldn't explain. Objects would move throughout the house, and she felt some kind of presence always inside of her. The family decided to call in a priest to exorcise her of any spirit she might be carrying. It worked, and Marta's grandmother never played with the spirit board again. Marta's mother had heard this story from her own mother, but never really believed it until she started playing with the Ouija board herself. She was also in her late 20s when her friend decided they should play with a board together. They had a lot of fun, sometimes making jokes and moving the planchette around themselves. One time, though, they contacted a spirit who seemed very interested in her mother. It started asking all kinds of questions about her mother, Marta's grandmother. Where was she? Why didn't she play anymore? Marta's mother became a little spooked, remembering the story her mother had told her, so she and her friend closed the board with some prayers. But her friend was jealous that Marta's mother had managed to contact such an active spirit and continue playing with the board. Then strange things started happening. Objects started moving throughout the house, and the spirit seemed angry and agitated. She called in Marta's mother to help her, and they called on a priest to take the board and dispose of it. The 2 women never played again. Marta, like her mother before, didn't believe the stories. She and her friend Jenny continued to play and were always contacted by the same spirit, the good one who had told them to close the board before. Every time they contacted the spirit, they would ask how many people were in the room, and they would always say 3. They asked him to warn them if another spirit entered, and he said he would. One time, while they were communicating, the planchette started spinning, telling them to close, spelling the words evil, bad, and 4 in a room. Their curiosity got the best of them, and the girls decided to try and contact the 4th person. "Who are you?" they asked. "I am," was the reply. "Are you good or evil?" The spirit didn't respond. They decided to contact the good spirit again, but the new visitor wouldn't let him talk. For every question they asked, he kept saying no. Just as the girl started to get upset about the strength of the spirit, he started asking questions about Marta. He said he felt like he knew her from somewhere. Marta jumped away from the board, shocked. She knew who the spirit was. She ran crying into her mother's office, apologizing for never believing her. Her mother knew exactly what had happened. She took the Ouija board from the girls and put it in the living room. Jenny had no idea what was going on. Marta's mom left to go get the Bible, and that's when the planchette started moving on its own. It spelled, "I know who you are." Marta's mom returned. "Stop, I order you to stop," she shouted. Marta's mom sat down at the board. The girls sat terrified in the background. She didn't want the spirit to attach itself to either of the girls. She started reciting prayers, trying to cast the spirit away. "Do what you want to me, but not my child. Not my child. You're not going to touch her." She called on God to cleanse the house. That's when things went crazy. Objects started flying around and they could hear a strange sound, like someone was breathing hard in the room. Then Marta felt someone slap her face. Marta's mom became furious, placed the Bible directly on the board, and continued to pray to God. Marta joined her, and so did Jenny. They began to calm down as their prayers strengthened them. After a minute, all the chaos ended. The energy in the room felt positive. Again, the planchette moved on its own. It spelled out close. Immediately, the girls knew who it was, the good spirit. Marta's mom gently closed the board, took it away, and the girls never saw it again. I'm not kidding. That's like exactly my experience with T. That is exactly my experience with her. We would talk to T all the time. She was such a good spirit. She never told us to close out because we knew to close out, but she would tell us if somebody was coming, and there were spirits who were stronger than her and they could take over the board from her. Oh my god, I just got like major flashbacks. I'm not going to go into it though, we're just going to move on. This next story says bubblegum. It was 1994 and Karen was going to college in Philadelphia. One weekend, a massive winter storm overtook the town, so everyone was holed up indoors. Karen and her roommate Jen decided to have a couple friends over to keep them from going insane from boredom. Once they were all together, Jen suggested that Karen get out her Ouija board. The other two thought it was a great idea. It would be fun to try and spook each other a little. Jen and her friend Mike had the Ouija board set up between them. Almost immediately, everyone could sense a spiritual presence filling the room. The planchette moved before Jen could even ask a question. "I want Karen," it spelled. Karen sat in the background, looking surprised. She felt a shiver run down her spine. "Why me?" she wondered to herself. Karen didn't like that the planchette had spelled her name, but since she wasn't actually the one playing, she figured it was safe to ask questions. "Who is this?" she asked. The planchette spelled Stephen. Everyone in the room laughed. Everyone except Karen. The others knew that Karen had a younger brother named Stephen and thought it was probably a coincidence the spirit had said that name. But what they didn't know was that Stephen was a family name. Her uncle was also named Stephen, and so was her grandfather. How do you know me? Asked Karen. The room fell silent as the planchette moved under Jen and Mike's fingers. Grandpa. Jen looked up at Karen, confused. Do you have a grandpa named Stephen too? Karen nodded. He passed away when I was 8. Everyone's attention drew back to the board. Karen had to know if this was really her grandpa, so she racked her brain for some early memories that only he would know about. Finally, she said, what was the special treat you used to bring me when you visited? The planchette moved to spell bubblegum. Karen knew her friends couldn't have known that. Even her mother had probably forgotten. She leaned back on the couch, looking pale. What does that mean? Asked Jen. Karen sighed. When my grandpa came to visit me, he would bring me a cigar box filled with bubblegum cigars. We would sit together, he would smoke, and I would pretend to with the bubblegum. The group stared at Karen. She was feeling pretty freaked out by this point, but reminded herself that the spirit had said nothing bad or harmful to her so far. The planchette moved on its own to, I love you, it spelled. Karen hesitated. I love you too, Grandpa. Then the planchette moved to goodbye. The group decided to close the board. Later that night, Karen was in bed when she suddenly remembered a dream she'd had when she was 12. Her grandpa had been gone for 4 years, but he came back to her in a dream just to say he was okay. Karen had asked, Can I go to heaven with you? No, her grandpa said, but I'm okay. Karen had always felt close to her grandpa, even after all these years. She felt he was always with her. She figured the dream and the Ouija board experience were his way of checking in with her and letting her know that everything was fine with him. That is the most wholesome story I've ever read about a Ouija board in my entire existence. And this next story says, be wise. Eddie and his girlfriend Denise decided to try out the Ouija board together. Eddie had a specific spirit he wanted to contact, but he figured the effort was far-fetched. His father had committed suicide in 1993. He had been 38, and Eddie was just a little boy who had been left with more questions than answers about his father and his sudden death. Eddie had never told Denise what happened to his dad, but he still wanted her to be there for support. When they set up the Ouija board in Eddie's room, they were surprised by how quickly a spirit contacted them. To Eddie's surprise, the spirit claimed to be Dale, his deceased father. Eddie was amazed and immediately wondered if Denise had somehow known about his dad and was putting him on. He decided to ask some questions to be sure. What is your middle name? Joseph, the planchette spelled. This was true. What is Mom's middle name? Mayo name? Maonename. What does that mean? Asked Denise. My mom doesn't have a middle name, said Eddie, finally convinced about who the spirit really was. Do you have a message for me? Asked Eddie. The planchette moved quickly, so fast that it pulled away from their fingers. Help Ma, it spelled. Then it moved to Miss Ma. Of course, said Eddie. Anything else? The planchette moved to yes, and then break up. Eddie and Denise exchanged looks. What? Said Denise, looking upset. The planchette spelled be wise. Denise was really upset, but Eddie was mostly bemused. Is that a word? Bemused? Why should we break up? He asked. Nicola, the planchette spelled. Save her. Love her. Who's Nicola? Asked Denise, frowning on Eddie. The girl I was with before you, he said somberly. Huh? Said Denise, getting up from the board. This is stupid. The Ouija board is talking nonsense. It's my father, said Eddie. It's not, said Denise, and she stormed from the room. Eddie sat alone, the planchette unmoving, the spirit gone. He thought about his father's words, he thought about Denise, and he thought about Nicola. And that's the end of that one. I need more. I need more to that story. I need to know, did you break up? Did you? Did you break up? This next story says, don't want to cross. Brandy's mom had died 3 weeks earlier from cancer. It was bad and she had suffered a lot, but Brandy still couldn't come to terms with the fact that she was really gone. So, she decided to do something ridiculous and use a Ouija board to contact her, not knowing if it would really work. Sitting in her mother's home, alone, Brandy put her fingers on the planchette. Mom? She said tentatively. Tentatively? Tentatively. The planchette moved to yes. Surprised, Brandy asked, is it really you? It is Mom, spelled the planchette. Brandy was a little worried because she had heard that evil spirits could sometimes contact people, posing as loved ones. Still, she felt she had no choice but to keep asking questions. Have you crossed over? She asked. The planchette slid to no. Are you scared? Yes. Do you want to stay in the house? Yes, was her reply. Did it hurt when you died? Asked Brandy. The planchette moved to yes. Were you scared? Yes. I'm sad I can't spend Christmas with you, said Brandy. The planchette moved to I can see you. That was a bit of a scary thought, but Brandy moved on from it. Do you have a message for Nana? Yes, I love you. Brandy felt more at ease. Well, if you're going to be here, can I get you anything for Christmas? The planchette sat still for a moment, then spelled magazines. Brandy wondered how in the world she would be able to read them, but said yes anyways. What do you do all day? She asked next. Watch Brandy. Do you have a message for me? The planchette moved. Be happy. Brandy kept communicating with her mom for hours, becoming more convinced that the spirit was really her. Late in the night, Brandy said she had to go. "Sorry, Mom, I'm tired." The planchette moved, another time. Brandy sighed. "I want to talk to you all the time, but I'm not sure if this is really even you." "Only Daniela," she spelled. Daniela was her name. "Will you give me some signs when you're near me?" The planchette moved. "Be more alert." Brandy smiled. The planchette moved. "I don't want to cross." "It's okay, Mom," said Brandy. "Just stay here with me." Brandy moved the planchette to goodbye, closed the board, and started getting ready for bed. She fell asleep easily for the first time in 3 weeks, knowing her mom was close by, watching over her. That's another really wholesome one! Oh god, this next category is about the Z word, Zozo. I know I shouldn't say it out loud, but I'm going to. I'm just going to read one more from this category, just because I'm really intrigued, and then we're going to end the video. So this story says, The Gate. Dina was about 10 years old when her aunt and uncle gave her a Ouija board when they visited from St. Louis. Like her family, Dina assumed it was a harmless game to pass the time. She really enjoyed playing with it and did so regularly over the years. Sometimes strange things would happen while she played, but those weird occurrences never scared her like they did her friends. As Dina got older, she lost interest in playing with the Ouija board. Years later, when she was in her early 30s, she went back to her hometown with her 2 young children for a visit. Dina's old friend, Murph, had passed away recently. She and her other childhood friend named Buddy went to Murph's house to say goodbye to his spirit. Buddy was a bit of a psychic. When they arrived at Murph's house, Dina felt nothing. Buddy, on the other hand, instantly knew. "He's there, Dina." The two decided to go into the house and use Dina's old Ouija board to try and contact Murph. It was like he had been waiting to speak to them, because he responded immediately, moving the planchette quickly around the board. Dina and Buddy tested the spirit to see if he knew things only Murph would know. It was him, all right. The spirit even had the same sense of humor everyone had loved about Murph. He said he was happy, and all 3 of them communicated all night through the board. The following night, Dina tried to contact Murph again, alone. He wasn't there. Someone else, some other spirit, kept saying Zozo is coming. Dina had no idea what it meant and kept trying to get the spirit to talk about other things, but all it continued to do was warn her. That night, Dina lay in bed in her childhood home, unable to sleep. She heard the sound of footsteps in her room. Quickly, she turned on her bedside light, terrified to see a dark figure sitting at her desk on the other side of the room. The dark man faded away in front of her eyes. Dina struggled to get to sleep. The next day, she got online and searched for information about a Zozo spirit and the Ouija board. She found nothing and didn't give it any more thought. A few years later, Dina's now teenage daughter Jill brought home a fancy glow-in-the-dark Ouija board. Jill tried it out in the living room while Dina was getting ready for work. Almost immediately, Jill was contacted by Zozo. The spirit said he had been waiting a long time for her to talk to him. He told Jill that her mother had opened the gate years before. When Dina entered the living room, Jill told her what the spirit had said. When Jill spoke to Dina, the planchette moved again. "Hello, Dina." Disturbed, Dina told Jill to burn the board and left for work. Jill obliged, and it ended up being a wise decision. Plagued by the idea of Zozo, Dina did another internet search for the spirit. Now, strange encounters with the demon had appeared all over the internet since she had last looked. All of them were nothing but terrifying. Dina couldn't help but wonder how so many people had encountered the same evil entity she had learned of years before. Had she really opened the gate like Zozo claimed? That is all I'm going to read for now, so when we do another video of this, there are going to be more Zozo stories. The book is sectioned off into categories about like what the stories are going to be about. I don't really read about the categories beforehand, I just kind of go into the stories. But I do know this category is about Z word, the Z word. I know I've already been saying it, so it doesn't matter, but I'm not going to say it again. But I hope you guys enjoyed. This is going to be a little bit shorter, mainly because I did ramble so much at the beginning, and my throat starts to hurt after so long of talking because I don't shut up. And so it's going to be like half ramble, half Ouija board stories, but I know you guys don't care. I know you like when I ramble, so it's fine. Well, some of you like when I ramble, a lot of you don't. But whatever. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I don't know if I've already said that, but I'm gonna go. I love y'all. I will see you in the next one. Bye! I think I'm gonna go see Saw again this weekend. I'm pretty sure. If you guys want like a longer video, I probably won't be able to do a longer video about the whole movie, like reviewing it until it comes out on like streaming services, because there's no way for me. I'm not gonna like sit in the theater with a notepad writing down things. I'm not gonna do that. I just want to watch the movie. It's a lot easier if I can sit down at my desk and like write things down. And I also don't want to look like a weirdo with a notepad in a movie theater. Except people probably do that when people like review movies. It's probably not that weird and people would like know what I'm doing. So maybe I could do that, but I don't know. But I'm probably gonna see it again this weekend because I did like the movie. I know I said that it was kind of bad. Not really. I didn't say it was kind of bad, but I kind of bashed on it. But I did like the movie. I'm probably gonna see it again because I love Saw. I love Saw. I love Saw. But okay, I'm gonna go. See ya.